Welcome back, everyone, to Hearthstone Global Games 2019, where we are almost done with Group H. One more match left in this group to find out who will be leaving with Greece as the winners and who will sadly be eliminated from this year's Hearthstone Global Games. And it's a rematch this time. We've got, to be joining Greece, we have Ukraine and we have Denmark, the first match that we had today. And while it was looking good for Denmark then, I believe, it turned around quite rapidly towards the end.
Yeah, I mean, when you're playing against Ukraine, which is a team of Kalento and Irea, who are considered two of the best from the European region, Kalento at one point was considered the best in the world, and he still is in contention for that. Uh, you really can't make slip-ups. And one of the things that we saw in Denmark versus Ukraine the first time was a slip-up. They had a chance to attack with a Sightless Ranger, make some extra tokens, make the board state a lot more awkward for Ukraine, but they just didn't have that one extra second to make that attack. However, we did see Denmark play a pretty long series against Russia just now, and I think they played it quite well. I think that they didn't let the stress get to them in that game. So if they continue that up of playing well, I think that this will be a pretty fun and close match.
Well, we better jump into it to find out who it's going to be. A very, very close match indeed, like you said. And I can't wait to see who's going to get through. I have a lot of admiration for both of these teams. Like you said, I feel like Kalento and Nyria are definitely the more well-known and more like... have the better tournament experience and tournament pedigree when you look over their entire career. But Fury Hunter, I think you and I both know, is like one of the most proficient ladder grinders that we have in Hearthstone at the moment. And also has not a terrible tournament record to boast alongside that.
Oh yeah, I mean Fury Hunter has something that I consider a very cool accomplishment. He had a tour stop win last year with his own
That's
Odd
right.
Warrior deck when people didn't really think Odd Warrior was a legitimate candidate to be a real deck. So I massively respect Fury Hunter. He has a tournament win, which I have not gotten. I still like strive towards. So he's a player in some respects I look up to just for that. Especially with the fact that he brought it with his own style of deck. A lot of people often will just follow the meta. For example, in Grandmasters last season, a lot of people were like, "Oh, my winning strategy was copy what Hunter Race did last week." That's what I
Oh
did
yes.
for a couple weeks.
Oh
Well. But
yes.
I do think that Fury Hunter, even if it's not apparent in this specific tournament match, he is running a Vol Shaman. He is a trendsetter rather than a follower, and I really like to see that. I think it's very cool to see the people who do their own thing and have success with it.
Right. We got Priest, we got Shaman, a classic matchup already. It feels like
Yes.
two of the, if not the two best decks in Hearthstone at the moment. What are we looking at? What are the players trying to do?
It is pretty funny that I'm talking about innovation while we're watching coverage. No, from this perspective, I think Kalento wants to make a big thing early before Fury Hunter makes several medium things early. That's what it boils down to. Kalento picking up an Ahmet is going to be really powerful, but Fury Hunter does have Spear of the Frog, Zap plus Desert Hair. And if I had, again, do this a lot, but I think that Fury Hunter is in a pretty good position here, even though Kalento has this powerful start of a 2/6.
Okay. I think I agree with you for the most part. It's definitely looking like Fury Hunter has the makings of a hand that could really start to pop off. But with Kalento, the Divine Spirit as well, this is the exact kind of hand that Shaman cannot answer. Like you were saying, they need one big boy.
Just end
and
it.
They need it
Okay, I apologize. I didn't realize that Kalento's next draw was going to be Divine Spirit.
Do you think there was any consideration for not just playing both of those cards right there?
Well, I'd consider it if I didn't want to win a game of Hearthstone. Oh! Well, wait a second. Just 1 second,
That's
though. Not that
also
many.
a good draw.
Yeah. This Zap can find an Evolve, Desert Hair, Mogu Flesh Shaper Evolve.
So you start with Hair plus Mogu and then Zap a 1/2, so you don't clear a guy off the board.
Like it?
Mortals are so squishy.
Okay.
That is not Evolve. And does that even find him a 2-mana spell? He has both Soul of the Murlocs in his hand already.
That's it. I mean, this could be one of the swiftest losses we've had so far in Global Games, right off the bat.
There is little time.
Amit costs 4 mana, Derek.
How much mana does he have at the moment?
I believe he has 4.
I must consider.
Amit costs 4. 4. Oh, I think I've seen a play, Galen. It would be crazy. I want to play Amit onto the board and then
Okay, so let's be
hit fate
entirely
trade a
honest.
rabbit.
There is a world where, you know, Kalento would try to trade into the Spirit of the Frog, and then he wants to, like, Light Warden to, you know, set up a 16 damage combo. But I really think just going face for 12 makes a lot of sense here, and then in that case, play your 4 mana, play your Oasis Snapjaw.
Not too quickly.
The fact that he's going Circle of Killing here means that it's very likely to be an Amit. You have to
The one
imagine.
consideration, I guess, was that he could have gone face with both of his minions and then played Amit, which would have meant that even if the 12 attack Toldir dies, he would still have had the 3 damage necessary for lethal. But I think what is more likely is that another 4 cost minion survives with an evolve off the top.
Yeah, and that could be a taunt, for example. It would just be
Exactly.
a little bit too much. But I mean, Fury Hunter here, what can he do to stay alive? One of the things that he could get is like a taunt totem, but how does he clear the Ament and have a taunt totem up? And the answer
cannot.
is you can't. So it seems like,
You win this.
yeah. Well,
That was a
great
fun
game.
game.
Hearthstone, yeah. At least they're quick, Derek. You know, at least the Priest vs. Shaman games are usually quick. We got it
They
over
are.
with. We're going into game 2. Ukraine up 1-0 with their combo Priest in this series. They still have Reno Hunter and Warrior left. So, not much to say about that. Divine Spirit, Inner Fire are good when you have a big minion in play early on. And you're supposed to get an Evolve instead of Voltaic Burst.
Classic mistake, and generally I find that the priest, the shaman loses that matchup, and it's something I always try and bring up. Is that I feel like in my experience playing that matchup, the shaman isn't as favored as you first think if the other player knows what they're doing. Because if you just curve out, you don't win. But if you make a giant minion, the shaman can't answer that. But either way, that's all behind us now. We have a very different priest matchup here, with the priest obviously on the other side now for Denmark, up against the warrior for Kalento, which, like, I feel like this matchup kind of got blown out of proportion a little bit, because in Grandmasters, when we were in the like peak priest meta, myself and a lot of the other casters were kind of finding, okay, warrior does pretty good in this matchup. It's not that bad. So we started saying it's favored. It's a great matchup for the warrior, which I think may be a little bit blown out of proportion.
I think that it's pretty close. It's pretty close.
Yeah,
I'd say it's pretty
that's
close.
my take.
But it's pretty easy to tell early on, like, if someone is like super favored or incredibly favored in a certain spot. For example, one of the cards that is so important and vital to have is Northshire Cleric. Obviously, it's a good card just based on the fact it's Northshire Cleric. But even in this matchup, Warrior's tools don't really answer a 1/3 very efficiently early on. We see him pick it up. And, you know, this could be a game where Freddy could be going Coin Injure Tolvir, into Northshire Cleric, Neverset Ritualist, which is just so powerful. And the reason why it's so important is because Warrior is very good at answering early pre-sports. You know, they have Plague of Wraths, Brawls, Shield Slams, stuff that answers threat early.
Quickly.
The thing about Northshire Cleric is that it gives you reload. And Warrior gets really bad at dealing with reloaded boards. You know, sure, they have a Brawl for the first board, and they might have a Plague of Wrath for the second, but once you start getting to the third and fourth boards that the Priest is generating, due to the fact that they draw extra cards, that's when Warrior starts to really struggle. Kalento here has a really powerful turn.
Job's done.
Weapons Project is just going to clean this up. Something that you just never want to see as a Priest is that 1 into Weapons Project.
It is bad. It is pretty bad for Freddy B, but he still has a curve that makes sense here. Obviously, I'm thinking Tolvir, and then Cleric plus heal, be it Ritualist or Hero Power. Haven't decided yet, doesn't matter yet. But it allows him to start that card draw engine rolling, which, like you said, is so critical.
What's really interesting about this is that this turn that we're about to see between Kalento and Freddy B, there's actually so many decisions to be made that, like, and they all matter. For example, I'm going to try to break it down as quickly as possible. Wrap God mode. If Kalento attacks the 2/3 Injure Tolvir, that means that the Freddy B cannot go Silence, and value trade before healing with his Neferset Ritualist into the Acolyte of Pain.
Okay.
If that happens, and Freddie B goes Neferset first, suddenly you're looking at a 2-5 instead of a 2-6. What that means is the Restless Mummy and the weapon can now kill the 2-5, and the second Restless Mummy can now kill the Northshire Cleric. So, from Kalento's perspective, I really like this attack. This attack makes a ton of sense, specifically against what Freddie B has. There's a lot more other things to think about, but just that attack alone has so much merit to it that I really like what Freddie B or what Kalento did here.
And I think even to like break it down even more simply, like generally against priest minions, like the extra weapon swing isn't going to be that, and this is quite a lot of emphasis, that crucial, because they don't play that many low health important things outside of like a Light Warden. So just being able to reduce the attack a little bit and guarantee you to be able to kill off, you know, an Amit, a Cleric, a Acolyte is very, very important as a warrior, which, like you said, is exactly what Kalento's done.
Is someone injured?
This single attack is going to mean so much. Oh, that is a huge pickup.
That is a huge pickup.
But he doesn't go for it.
Were you thinking he should go for that because he has a very strong read that Restless Mummy is in the hand?
That, you've seen a Town Crier, and also you have a Bwonsamdi in your hand, so the card draw does not become as important. Right now, you just want the board in play, and this... we denied.
Yeah, I think I would have preferred, like, again, if he hadn't seen the Town Crier, then it becomes a little bit more questionable, but because he saw the Town Crier, just allowing your Cleric to die, I think against Warrior is a little too important to just let go.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just, like, so marginal, but at the same time, I really think that, this was an error where I hope that Fury Hunter and Freddy will look back at this game and go over it, because I think it's very small, it's hard to spot, but I do think it's very important to realize. There's a couple things that were markers of the fact that Kalento was going for this. He had played a Town Crier, so already it's pretty likely that he has a Restless Mummy, and also that attack in with his weapon on the turn that he played Acolyte of Pain also signifies heavily that he has a Restless Mummy.
So what does this mean for Kalento now? How is he able to capitalize on this, what looks like from Freddy's reaction, pretty big mistake?
I think just fighting for board here, this makes a lot of sense.
I've more left in me.
There's an interesting all-in play that Freddy can make right now, which is Circle of Heal, Divine Spirit Toss.
Don't you dare.
I wouldn't go for it.
I wonder.
This is definitely not the time to go all in. They have a Bwonsamdi that's going to find them another Northshire Cleric. What they need now is to find a Wild Pyromancer. Keep up board presence into turn 7. Get the Bwonsamdi online. Pick up a bunch of 1-drops. Try to get a Wild Pyromancer and cycle through their deck from there.
Well, that feels like a long way down the line. Like, do you think there's any benefit to going for something like Circle of Healing Divine Spirit now to make a really, really big guy that protects the rest of their minions? It's not vulnerable to Shield Slam, for example.
Yeah, there's definitely merit to it.
Do the merits outweigh the negatives?
Well, I think that's a much harder question to answer. Remember that, you know, you're relying on several different things that happen and several turns down the line. So, you know, lots and lots of cards can, you know, affect it by quite a bit. That's a cheeky way of me getting out of answering that question.
Yeah, that's a way of saying shut up, Derek. I'm just, you know, I have to pass on Lorinda. I'm not used to actually being able to ask questions to my coach. Making the most.
Oh, that is huge.
mean, they're just homing in on lethal in the next couple of turns.
Now I'd be pretty interested in this Divine Spirit. You could talk me into it.
Wait,
You're playing a Bonsomni next turn if you're on Freddy B's perspective.
I must consider.
play it. Like, do you want to play the Topsy as well, or just the Divine Spirit?
I think just the Divine Spirit.
I think I agree. I mean, well, I'm not even convinced if Divine Spirit at all is the play, honestly, because I feel like that's something that it gets really complicated, because it's not just about the value that you have in your hand that you're using, it's about the overall value in the entirety of the deck. You only have 2 Divine Spirits in the deck, and as soon as you use even one of those, it becomes a lot harder to lethal a warrior.
Quickly.
There's a lot of merit on both sides.
Yeah.
That's a good way of putting it. Ooh, that is a huge pickup. Weapons Project Shield Slam can answer both of these minions pretty effectively. From Kalento's side, I imagine you just hope Bonsomni isn't there, but the way Freddy's been playing, it's pretty likely that it's there. There's a card on his far left that's been there the entire time.
I mean, it's either a hand of complete and utter garbage, like it's Silence or something like that, it's already been played, I guess, or it's Bonsomni. And there's nothing you can really do to affect the effects of those cards.
Pretty powerful Bonsomni, drawing 4 at this stage of the game. Also getting Powered Shield that turn. Celiax in play, I believe, with a Silence pickup. That is just going to be lethal. There's a Silence!
Hey, I got you, friend.
At some point, I really need to turn this whole caster mentality of just calling whatever card it's going to be into actual games.
Dude, you've been indicted into the Hall of Casters. This is your superpower now.
I just when I'm in a Grandmaster game, I need to be saying, and Gallon picks up the Zephyrus off the top. I haven't really tapped into that yet. I really need to start doing it.
Well, either way, that is going to be Freddy B. It was, like you said, I think a bit of a blunder there, and it's interesting to kind of differentiate between the different types of mistakes that you can make, because the one you were talking about with Sightless Ranger, that isn't the kind of mistakes you're supposed to be making. Time management is an important part of Hearthstone, but it's not a tactical misplay. It's just time management and fluffing it up at the end.
Someone missing an attack, it doesn't mean that they're missing some core function of Hearthstone, right? It just means that they didn't have enough time to click the thing. It's literally just a mechanical error, and mechanical errors do not define how good or bad a person is at Hearthstone, even if they're not something you should be making. If you're making them pretty often, yeah, you should probably work on your APM, work on your time management skills, but that's not your mentality is off. With that game specifically, I do think that there is something to learn, something to think about, because based on how Kalento was playing, it's very clearly going to be a Restless Mummy next turn. And, you just need that one extra step of logic to be, hey, I can get this one more number to make that not work. So, yeah. Tough turn. But one of the good things about that is it's a learning experience, and I think it's really important if you are a competitive player like 300 and Freddy to have those kinds of things, because it's really, really, really helpful to have spots where you can say, hey, this is how I can improve. I always try to look for that in my own game plans. There's always spots to improve on. So in the end, not a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. And if there's one thing that Freddy can learn from that, it's to not be a dum-dum. And with that, we'll be right back after this break.
Excellent work.
There we go. You're watching the 2019 Hearthstone Global Games with Gallon and me, Derek Brown, and we are halfway through the final series of Group H. We've got one more match left afterwards. After this group, where we'll be moving on to the next group. Believe we have a few more groups to work through before we finish up our top 32 and move on to the top 16. Very competitive group there. Germany and Norway as the real standouts, as the most competitive teams. Arguably the strongest group, but we got to finish this one first between Ukraine and Denmark. No slouches in their own right, as they've been showing with some pretty strong Hearthstone, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, we do have Germany and Italy to look forward to in the final match today, but this is probably the game of the day, I would say. You know, we are going into the decider match. Whoever wins this makes it to the top 16. Not specifically this game. It's a best of 5, not a best of 3, so you have to win 3 to advance, 3 out of 5 to advance. But this match is probably the match of the day.
Freddie B getting a decent hand against Warrior. I think I'm not incorrect in saying that this is a bit of an uphill climb for the Shaman up against the Warrior, purely due to the absurd amounts of removal that the N'Zoth Warrior has.
Absolutely. You were talking about how it might have been you or Lorinda, I'm not sure at this point, but one of you was talking about, sorry, you guys just have this very British accent. It blends together, you know. My mind gets fried. I'm kidding.
Don't worry about it, Zilly.
But only a little bit. The fact that some decks often tech like way more to beat Evolve Shaman, and they sacrifice a percentage to do that. Yes. Well, yeah, that was probably Lorinda. He's a very stats-oriented guy. You're more of an emotional person. Hey, don't get angry now, okay?
All right.
No, it's not fair. It's definitely a deck that tends toward teching towards Shaman. You know, they spend a lot of their cards. They have double Plague of Wrath. In this deck list, they have, double Plague of Wrath, Whirlwind, Warpath, Sprawls, obviously, Dynamatic. Just lots and lots of ways of clearing off early board states.
Right, Burst, Voltaic Burst on 1. What do we think?
If there's a turn to play it with the Desert Hare in hand, this is the turn to do it, right?
Sure.
And if there's a turn to have an Acolyte, it's turn 2 against a turn 1 of Voltaic Burst.
Go Voltaic Burst on 1 and they just go Town Crier. Is that better or worse than not having played it at all? Like, technically it trades, which I guess allows you to go for your Hare play without it contesting, but you're always going to go Hare plus Evolve on 4 anyway, so they're not going to have a chance to trade into your 1/1. I'm not sure.
I think it's really difficult. It's really difficult to say. I think you're in an unfavored spot, and just hoping that they don't have it makes sense to me.
Okay.
That makes sense. You know, you push like 6 extra chip damage if they don't have a Town Crier or an Acolyte of Pain, which is unlikely, but you have to take risky plays when you're in an unfavored spot, like you are in Evolve Shaman versus Warrior.
Fair enough. Ooh, that's
Wait
a pretty juicy selection.
You know what happens with weaponized Pinata and Necromechanic, right?
I do know what happens.
And well, to break it down, they get 2 random legendaries. Whoa!
Whoa! Hog 2.
So good.
So what are they thinking about evolving here? I'm looking at the 2/4 most heavily, but then I'm wondering if it's worth it at all. Because you might want to hold on for something a little bit better. It's the turn before Brawl.
Holding on against a Warrior sounds bad to me.
Okay, all in.
Yeah, mutating the 2/4, I like that play quite a bit.
Cool.
But they better do it quick, because if they get a Sightless Ranger, they really need to play it.
Alright, guess they're holding on. It does give them an improvement of quite a few top decks. Like, if they get a Frog off the top and they played their Mutate, that is a huge difference.
Yep. Spirit of the Frog lets you turn that Mutate into another 1-cost spell and a Solar Murloc, both of which are very powerful. I don't mind it. Weapons project off the top for Nyria here is so important. You get to draw 2 cards with this Acolyte of Pain, and then weaponized project Shield Slam lets you kill both the Necromechanic and the Archmage Arugul.
Mm-hmm. That sounds good to me. Man, these acolytes have just been absolutely filthy.
Yeah, the first one was bad enough, but the second one was really disgusting. Oh, he's just going second shield slam as well. Makes a lot of sense. Why not? Katrina Muerte, that can get you another weaponized pinata.
Whoa, infinite
Derek,
chain.
That could get you another Katrina Muerte. That's always how that card works.
Welcome to Thrall's Muerte Emporium. We serve all your Katrina-based needs.
I wonder.
Hmm?
You got a small chuckle, Derek. You're pushing it now.
Hmm? A small,
You got a small
exhale.
chuckle.
Nose?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all.
The
That
tiniest
was
bit.
good. Let's be honest. As often has to be the case in this matchup, I find at least, the having just throw it down, you know, you always want to get a little bit more value out of your... Oh my god, I've completely forgotten the name of the card. What's 2/6 buff snake?
The 2/6 buff snake? Wow, that is... Do you mean Vicina?
Vicina, just forgot it. Yeah, sorry. I played that card a bunch
I thought you were
of
talking about Hearthstone Battlegrounds for a second. I was like, Gas Coiler, Screwjank Clunker. It's not a snake.
Even dumber than that, I am truly a medical marvel as to how stupid I could be sometimes.
No,
Yes,
I mean,
Vicina.
I like the name. 2/6 buff snake.
Yeah.
That's just the name now. I don't know why they decided to name it Vicina. Like,
What to do?
Yeah. Does exactly what it
And-
says on the tin. It's not quite
2/6
sure
buff
if
snake.
it's meant to mean buff as in muscly or buff as in it buffs your minions.
next to the 2/4 Vault Beaker and
Yep.
the O2 Spell Totem.
I mean, yes, I do call it... Everyone calls it Spell Totem.
Oh, that's fair.
But yes,
Go to
Vicina
damage
often has to
rod.
come down a little bit early, just for the body, as opposed to actually any value later on. But the problem is, you know, you were talking about how Warrior struggles against Priest when they refill their hand a whole bunch of times and draw a whole bunch of cards. It's kind of similar in reverse in this matchup, where as soon as the Warrior draws any amounts of cards, you can't afford to play around anything anymore because you're so far behind. But they always have what they need. There's always the removal that they need to be able to clear off anything.
This is kind of the flip side, you know, when Priest struggles is when they don't draw a lot of cards, and that's like every single game is Shaman, is you don't draw extra cards. Pretty important pickup for Freddy here.
Mortals are so squishy.
The best thing he could get is probably a Batterhead, just to clear off this entire board.
Yeah, Batterhead would be
Still fun.
pretty good. Yeah, I'd accept Tyrion. Pragnar said he should premium ones, but this is not bad, I suppose.
214 is pretty ugly.
It's pretty bad. I mean, it's like I was saying, right? If they don't have this card, maybe that can happen. They always have every card when they get double Acolyte and it draws a bunch of cards.
The one card that they do not have is a Plague of Wrath, and that is important. Nyria might have to go for a Brawl here instead of a Plague, and if the Sea Giant lives, you know, Freddy's still in a spot to come back and fight in this game.
Fair enough. Oh, so close.
That's not a Sea Giant.
That's so far. It's green, which is like the next best thing.
I don't think anyone's
Alright.
definition of giant is 0 attack and 2 health, though.
No, but in the Venn diagram of things that are green, and things that have 8 attack and 8 health. Giant
That's
is
like
in the middle,
50%. Okay.
and
yeah.
Totem is just green. So, you know, it shares 50% of the same traits.
Derek, that's kind of like saying banana shares 80% of the same DNA as a human.
It's not wrong.
Would you want your opponent, okay, would you want someone playing for you to be a banana or a human, Derek?
Well, ideally, I'd like them to be a human, and ideally, the Sea Giant would have won the brawl. But in the second best scenario, if I can't get a human, a banana will have to do.
No tomb can hold me.
Fair enough.
Exactly.
No tomb can hold me.
And honestly, at this point, I think a banana would have a better chance of winning this than Freddy B, because I do not think there's really much of anything that a human can do to win this game.
Well, let's put it this way. It's not that a banana would have a better chance to win, but it probably has an equal chance to win.
Yes, you're probably right. Especially a banana that can only roll Dragonhawk Spirit. I agree, Freddy. This matchup. Okay,
Ooh,
well he's
fatigue.
fatigued.
Yeah. Maybe a 2-mana 1/3 in the late game is what beats N'Zoth decks.
Oh, imagine playing that card in N'Zoth. What if you buff it, and then wait? If you res it after it's been
And you're
buffed,
playing
it doesn't-
Paladin. You're playing N'Zoth Paladin, Derek. Sea Giant. And it's quickly going to be murdered next turn.
No tomb can hold me.
Alright, Stormbringer into King Crush is lethal.
You are correct.
Or Ragnaros, there's multiple options here. So I take it back. Freddy B has a slightly better win rate than a banana.
I'm pretty sure
that's
Banana would have spotted this Stormbringer, okay? That's pretty offensive to bananas everywhere. This is lights out.
Light the fuses.
You know how people back in the day said that, like, Psychic Screen was bugged?
To be fair, there is a... No. You are right in the fact that maybe there's a world where Nyria loses this game because he did not play around Stormbringer into exactly Ragnaros for the 1-3 or King Crush. So, I actually do think that on that turn he may have made a slight mistake by not attaching a Ziliax. Like...
Yeah, okay.
It comes up like 1 in, 1,000 games, but, you know, he gave Freddy B like a 1 in 1,000 to win this one, right?
Yeah.
Not a huge deal. It won't come up like in 99.9% of scenarios, but I do think it's just like a careless... It's one of those scenarios where you're like, I've won this game, when you forget about, you know, just one little way for Freddy to win.
I think now, though, we're looking at a pretty much guaranteed no chance.
There is a world where Desert Hare into Evolve, or Desert Hare into Stormbringer into double King Crush does it, right?
Yes, you're right, actually. So like, maybe Ziliax attaching was the best play there.
Yeah, I think so. It's really unlikely, but who knows?
Well, there we go.
At the very end, there, they probably still had like a 1 in several million to roll like triple Ragnaros, and they all go face. I don't know.
So really strict misplays here by Nyria to not play around that.
Throw on that 1 in several million. Yeah, just absolutely horrendous. No, it was clearly over, and it seems like my yeah. No, we're back. No, I'm back. We're good. Okay. Yeah. No, I think that the writing was on the wall for that series for quite a while, and in fact, yeah, there was really not much they could have done. I think they did play to their outs. They set themselves up for a spot where they get a Ragnaros or King Crush, like you were saying. Definitely played better than Banana in that series. So, absolutely great.
Yep. Very good. They gave it the best shot. And now it is Ukraine on just their hunter left. The Dino Tamer Bran Highlander hunter. which has really just been going up and down in popularity. And I think it's kind of the public's perception of the deck, at least amongst the pro community, seems to have settled somewhere around the middle. It's like it's a fourth deck. You know, it's not bad, it's not amazing, but it's all right.
Well, what I think is that if you can play it when the perception of it, like you can play it opposite to what the perception is, that's when you want to be playing it. For example, there was a time when people thought that Highlander Hunter was one of the worst decks you could bring to Hearthstone Grandmasters, and that's when it was having like a 64% win rate, which is very high. It was like the highest out of any deck in the format. And then people were like, oh, maybe Highlander Hunter is really good, and then everyone started bringing it, and its win rate quickly shot down. So if you can play it when it's not popular and not play it when it is popular, it's really where you want to be.
And also, you seem really cool because you can talk about how you've been playing it for ages, and everyone else is just copying you.
The real secret strat is to say it's terrible and then bring it the week that you say it's terrible.
Ah, the Hunter Ace strat, I see. Are you seeing gameplay at the moment?
So on our end, we are having a current small technical issue where the game is frozen, but Derek, if you go to the Play Hearthstone Twitch stream, you can see it on delay. So we will be casting it about 25 seconds off delay for a second here while we get that technical issue resolved.
Everyone in chat say, hey guys, to me and Galen. We're looking at you now.
Yep. Hey buddies.
And in 25 seconds, I will wave back. Wait, that doesn't make sense. How does time work?
I think you got it.
I think I got it.
You did great. Naria is playing on curve because that is how you play Hearthstone.
Alright, we're back.
We are?
Yep.
Nice. It's like we teleported in time.
Wow.
Do you like to play with fire?
Naria elected to Deadly Shot instead of playing an Ursatron. Crystal Merchant is a spooky card, and dealing with it is often very important to your game plan, so makes a lot of sense to me. Here, though, I'd be surprised if he doesn't play his Ursatron plus Shimmerfly, even though it makes Swipe pretty powerful. Swipe still will have a lot of effectiveness if you Mark Shot here, so...
Yep. Yeah, I like just clearing off minions while you can, getting the chip damage through to face, because, like, I don't know, in my experience with Hunter in this matchup, it doesn't win through going for, like, a lot of the time the curve. Like, the early curve doesn't seem to win. It's the bombs in the mid-game that are able to get like, Siamat, Ragnaros, anything off of Zephrys, or just a nice big minion that you've made with Ursatron and the Magnetic Blades.
Don't get me wrong, I was always down for chip damage there. I think that instead of killing the Wild Pyromancer, it made a lot of sense to go face it with a 3-attack minion. But I do agree with you that the mid-game bombs, Ragnaros, Bran, are really the power cards in this kind of matchup.
Fun fact about Denmark's weird as heck Druid, they don't play Swipe.
Wow, in that case, it made a lot of sense to go Ursatron Shimmerfly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of sense.
They got a lot of other cheap spells though, right, that they can go for.
I wonder.
I'm going to say I still like Ursatron Shimmerfly there. Especially
fair
with no
enough,
swipe.
fair
That
enough.
was like into a swipe, and them not having it makes it even better, I would say.
Sure. I'm gonna give that play the stamp of better than a banana.
I'll give it to that too. There's lots of plays with better than banana stamp. What play gets a worse than a banana stamp?
Quickly.
Arcane shotting your own face and passing.
11 mana Malagos.
Oh. Very few people will get that reference. Thankfully, I am not the one that he is targeting.
Right, the Druid's quest completed, ready to go. Nourish. Absolutely the dream card that you need at this point. It's like way better than even the Starfalls and Oasis Surges. You don't really need to clear the board, you just need to make sure you're not running out of any gas, and that's exactly what the Druid is able to do.
Subject 9 off the top. Now that's like a very interesting card because it's not necessarily like one of the powerful bombs that we're talking about. It's not Brand, it's not Rag, but it gets rid of all the bad cards from your deck. So suddenly, like, the draws that you have are now so much more powerful. In fact, he actually draws 5 cards off of Subject 9, which means, like, it's literally max value Subject 9, which is insane.
That is like one of the best top decks you could possibly find, right? Like it's that Unleash the Beast, which would probably just be worse.
Oh,
than
this is way better
5
than Unleash the Beast.
Yeah.
Right,
we're going in here.
Power play.
Oh, this is nutty.
Gonna go to 10 mana. If he'd like to, he can go Oasis Surge or trade into the 1/1, innervate out an Overflow.
Correct.
Could also just go another 5/5 and 5/6 here. 5/6 and 5/6, excuse me.
Oh my god, he can make even more mana. What the heck?
Oh yeah.
Waits for no one.
Oh. Yeah, I guess trade overflow makes sense. Yeah.
Oh, this is disgusting. He gets another Nourish. Doesn't go.
Yep.
I did like that Nourish, but he did a lot of stuff that turn. It was very hard, and I think he ended in a really good spot.
Yeah, the important things happened. He just really, at this point, needs to be making sure that he's able to answer the worst case scenario curve. Like, if we were to see Bran into Ragnaros into, I don't know, Tiamat into Zul'jin, first of all, I guess he needs to figure out, can I answer that?
Yeah.
And if he can, he needs to figure out, how do I get into that spot?
Yep, that makes sense. Sorry for interrupting you, but I'm also excited about this as well, so that's unfortunate. The Bran specifically is going to get checked this turn, so he's got that marked down. If the Bran gets checked, and the Ragnaros gets a lot less scary because you don't have 8 clocking you in the face every single turn. So even if a Rag shot hits, you're totally fine. So based on what you're saying, yes, he got out of it pretty unscathed, I would say.
So, the problem for Fury Hunter here is that Nyria still has Zephyrus potentially available, which limits you from just going absolutely all-in Omega hyper play onto the board and just lock down the game, because they obviously have Brawl or Shadow Flame or anything like that to be able to lock down the board if you go too all-in. So I guess because of that, Fury Hunter is holding back on Flynn the Forgotten King, which I think makes sense to me.
It's also important to, you might need to save it for like a 20 mana turn. If you play your Kun now, you might not have the opportunity to use that Forbidden Mist Loop if it's needed. Like, let's say your opponent just extends so far into the board that you need like more than 10 mana to answer it.
Right.
Just a marginal thing. I don't think it's a huge concern for them though.
Jeffrey's off the top. I think it's probably slight overkill now, given that Nyria has quite a few other powerful plays to consider. Like, just for example, does Ragnaros, you can just throw it down. It's not that bad.
The positioning around explosive shot is fantastic.
True.
Your wish is my strike quickly.
Some pretty PogChamp sequencing from Nyria, finding a full clear and developing as many secrets as possible.
I mean, this is a good turn for Nyria now, though, but that's always the case when you play Zephyrus. It's always a good turn. The problem now is that it means Fury Hunter can really just start to pop off onto the board in quite a drastic way.
If Fury Hunter wanted, since he's seen the Zephyrus, this is exactly what you're talking about. The fact that Zephyrus is no longer in play, suddenly he can extend on the board with this Kun, with this Floop. You know, something like Kun, Floop, Oasis, or Kun, Floop, Kun, Zephyrus, Tyrion, for example.
Yeah.
You've
Does he
seen
wanna-
the Go ahead.
I was just wondering if he wants to go for like Zephyrus with Floop more than he wants to go for Kun with Floop. Probably. Having two of those feels pretty powerful, but it's just difficult. On, like, what should he end his turn on then?
Where
It's actually a
shall
really
I
tough time.
wait for no one? Your wish is my suggestion.
Okay. I guess it's one of those
That's
things where
disgusting.
that is disgusting. I was gonna say though, if you can hold on to Kun the Forgotten King, sometimes you just should, because you can copy it with Elise and then have like really nutty turns later on in the game. Is probably their thinking.
I mean, just this turn alone, right? Fury Hunter could have done like 10 things extra. I don't know if it's strictly wrong. I would never say that. You know, they found a line that I think is going to win the game 100% of the time. It just, he could have had an extra 7/7 and a 6/6 and a 3/4 and a 2/2 in play, for example. An extra 6/6, 7/7, and a 3/4 and a 2/2 would kill Myria this turn. That was kind of my point.
So I'd have to imagine for the moment that Fury Hunter wants to. Actually, I don't know. I was gonna say that he wants to avoid playing any more minions until he can duplicate Zephyrus, but I guess it's not necessarily that much of a necessity that he does get a loop on the Zephyrus, because if he gets it with, you know, Elise or Kun the Forgotten King or any one of the other good minions he has in hand, he should be able to get a very, very powerful turn.
It looks like Fury Hunter is settling on the Kun, Elise, Baleful combo. That's the way that he's going to win this game. He's under no
That makes
pressure
sense
at
to me.
all. Yep. And there's really not much a Hunter can do, because even if you're putting down a Ragnaros, a Bran every single turn, you're still facing down 20 armor, 2 7/7s, and a Starfall.
And with that, Nyria has a ridiculously stacked hand for this point in the game. But I just don't think he's got the time to play it all out quickly enough, because while he is playing overstatted minions for the mana cost, Fury Hunter is just doing late game Druid things. He's cheating out mana left, right, and center.
Late game Druid things. That kind of sums up Druid from classic Hearthstone until now, right? Like,
They
that's
just
the
do
game plan.
things.
Late game Druid things. Yep, that sounds like they're winning.
Yep. Is it Togwaggle swapping the deck and then Azalina swapping it back, their hands back again so that they have to fatigue themselves? Yep, that's late game Druid things.
Twig of the World Tree Online. Yep, late game Druid things.
Malagos for 70 damage. Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah, Hadronox summoning 8 taunts.
Oh, I'd
Because
almost
even though
forgotten
there's only
about
7 in play. Yeah,
That was
that's late
deck.
game Druid thing.
that was a deck.
Yeah.
Wow. 20,
There's
20
that weird scenario
Med, Jade
where
Idol.
yeah. There's also that weird scenario where like there's early game Druid things when you go like innervate, Dr. Boom.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
cool.
Oh, yeah. Or Innovate Flappy Bird. Oh, what an early game Druid thing.
I had a very upsetting game against Soleil several years ago where I went Innervate Vicious Fledgling turn 1, and then his turn 1 was Innervate Coin Vandal Stag Helm, Innervate Trap. So, you know, Druid used to be really good, guys.
Druid
It
did
used to be really
Unlike this rubbish now where they infinitely extend fatigue, play
Yeah.
0 mana 7/7s that also gain them 10 armor. And
Back in my day, the power
Yeah.
turn of Druid was a turn 1 3/3. You guys got this newfangled 20/20 that gains 20 armor that clears the opponent's board.
But as we pull ourselves back out of memory lane, we can clearly see right now Nyria has got some fresh scars coming through as opposed to our long-healed ones at this point. Because it does look like he's just not going to be able to fend this off in time, as, like we were saying, Fury Hunter is just going to be doing Kun the Forgotten King, bam, 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 bam. Way too much stuff for Ukraine to have any chance of stopping.
At the bare minimum, you can gain 30 armor next turn. And
That'll
still be
probably
totally fine on comboing. Yeah.
I mean, he can gain 40 like, if he wants to, and spend stupid amounts of mana.
Well, hear me out. He can gain 30 and then keep gaining like 20 every single turn afterwards.
Sure, that sounds good. An investment.
I agree.
An house of cards.
I mean, does he just have lethal? No, he doesn't still have seven.
Well, he can make several copies of Pounce,
Oh yeah, you're right. Ooh, is
but I
is
think
this
the
lethal?
Pounce is. It might actually be lethal this turn.
It might just be lethal.
I will let Fury Hunter decide.
Oh my god, this is so filthy. Oh,
Uh, that's a lot of effort for not that much added
That's-
benefit. I think that this is good enough. You know, like I think this is good.
oh wait, I was trying to calculate lethal if you with spell damage pounce, and then I realized I'm a dumb human.
The lethal there would have been you need to copy the hand twice
Yeah.
and get 4 pounds. I don't think it would have worked.
I don't think it was there, but like you said, it just does not matter.
It's I think Fury Hunter decided pretty early on that this was going to be his way to win. He was under no pressure at all the entire time getting to this spot. Based on the way that he played, he got to the end game pretty quickly. Even seeing a Ragnaros and a Brand in hand, like Nyreen just didn't have time to play it due to the fact that Fury Hunter had so much tempo going into like the late game stages. So even though there may have been a turn where he could have accelerated his game plan, I think this was like a 100% guaranteed line that Fury Hunter took. So I think it's a well played game by Fury Hunter. I think that Nyria had some interesting decisions to be made in the early game on whether playing the Mark Shot was better than the Ursatron and the Shimmerfly.
Okay.
But it probably did not matter. Fury Hunter was never really under so much pressure that an extra minion developed early would have really, put him under fire.
Cards.
Pretty much the nightmare there for Nyria to miss the attack with the Locust as well. Like, that means that Freezing Trap is just proccable right now, and that should just be lethal. Yeah.
It really was not going to be the saving grace if he made that attack.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It meant he wasn't dead on board. Or to the pounce. I mean, it meant he wasn't dead on this turn.
Some classy BM by Fury Hunter. Gain an extra 40
Oh, no,
life.
wait, sir. I can't. Well, he must be able to pop me, right? Yeah.
The 100 Kings will rise 100 Kings.
I believe Kuhn's voice line is 100 Kings will rise again, and that's pretty thematic of what's going on in these late game Druid games. About 100 Kings.
Yeah, I mean, we got, like, what, 4 so far, a few earlier. We're well on our way.
Right,
I wonder
that
if
could be
anyone has played
10 at
100.
least.
Probably.
Have you
That's probably-
seen the late game like Druid mirrors easily? All right, Denmark versus Ukraine, going to the final match to decide who will make it to the top 16.
Pretty exciting stuff there. I wonder if they would agree with any of the things you were talking about in the mid game, like the real choices that stand out to me. Because late game when it gets to that point, Fury Hunter knows what he's doing. He knows how to play the combo. He's not going to mess that up. So mid game, stuff for me, it's things like not picking the Nourish over the Druid of the Claw felt like a little bit suspect, given with their particular build of the deck how important it is to cycle through to the end game as quick as you possibly can. As well as just a couple of other things, in the mid game where they were going for the Floop's Glorious Gloop. Maybe they could have improved their odds slightly.
Yeah, I mean, in those kinds of scenarios, I do think at a certain point, Fury Hunter and Freddy were at about 100% win the game, and the way they played it, while it was slower than maybe I would have played it, I still think was 100%. So, at a certain point, playstyle actually does become a thing, and it's not like a critique to say, oh, I would have played it differently. It's just a difference in playstyle up to that point. I do think the line that I took was 100%. So, saying that just because I wouldn't have played it that way, it's wrong. I don't think it's accurate.
I guess the problem actually with picking, now that I think about it, picking Nourish might be that you have to play both that Nourish and the Nourish in your deck before you can start doing Elise things, or you'd copy it, which can get a bit annoying. But either way, I suppose that's inconsequential, as you said.
Fury Hunter off to a fantastic start.
Oh yes.
Spirit of the Frog, Mogu Flesh Shaper, and Desert Hare.
I mean, if you were ever going to counteract a hand like that preemptively, Rat Trap is one of the few cards in Hearthstone that I think can do that.
There is little time.
Yeah, I mean, Kalento does have a pretty nice curve himself. Rat Trap into Mass Contender will make it difficult for Fury Hunter. Mass Contender could pull stuff like Pressure Plate or Snipe to just make it a lot more awkward.
Wow.
I mean, this is a really heads-up play by Fury Hunter. You don't need mana next turn, and you deny Kalento the opportunity to just snowball out of control.
I don't know, because like it's probably right to kill it off there, but you have to think about how big does it have to grow for it to be a problem. Because if it's a 2/3, I'd say that's fine, right? Because you can just Mogu it down the next few turns. You think that's already too much?
Yeah, I think already at 2/3 it's too much.
Okay, fair enough then. Then it's definitely the correct play if that's your conclusion.
Well, just imagine from Fury Hunter's perspective, okay? They will seize tempo in the mid game so hard, right? That do not like losing those extra voltaic bursts is not going to matter. What does matter is making your opponent
I think I disagree.
Stay off board.
I think you might need it. Like it could be the difference between on turn 4 being able to play the Mogu alongside your Hair and Evolve and not. Because on turn 4 you can go Hair, Coin, Burst, Mogu, Evolve. Given that the Hunter usually doesn't develop that much stuff. But I think you can definitely make the argument that it's more valuable on turn 1 to stop the damage.
I think from the Evolve Shaman side, if you make the game go slower, you're probably going to win with a hand like Spirit of the Frog and Desert Hare, and speeding it up by saving that Voltaic Burst. Maybe.
I think you're probably right. I think it was probably the correct place to go for it. I think it was quite close.
I think if it was a zap, then you could really start arguing about it. Because if you want to say that zap for the Spirit of the Frog, try to get another Evolve, then it becomes like a lot more of a debate, right?
Sure.
So if this is zap, I think I might like to see them hold it. It's really hard turned.
But in the end, we do see Fury Hunter, not even the Frog on 3 at all. It's just Desert Hare that comes down. I think in no small part due to the fear of Snipe, because of course a Desert Hare being sniped is a lot less bad than a Spirit of the Frog being sniped. So, I mean, it makes sense to me that he would just go for the Hare here. With another one in hand, it's really not that bad.
Wow. Lots of decisions to be made from Fury Hunter's side, and I think that he's doing a pretty good job of navigating this. The fact that he's not attacking at all, and he's taking it very slow, means to me that he probably has every secret in mind mapped out. And based on what Kalento has, I think he's doing a very good job at playing around them.
Now, well, I think what is fair to call the turn here for Fury Hunter. He still has to be a little bit afraid of course, you know, the Rat Trap, the Pressure Plate that it could be, and of course the Snake Trap. But when you have a 0 mana Mogu, that usually feels like time to go.
Gonna activate the Rat Trap. Makes a lot of sense. You're gonna be doing a lot of stuff this turn.
There's the 0 mana Giant.
If there is a freezing trap in play, this attack will let you get back another 0 mana Mogu, because even though it goes to 9 mana, there's still 10 mana in play. Oh, 10 mana worth of minions in play? Or 10 minions in play, excuse me. So even though it gets that extra +2, it's still +0.
Only thing that Fury Hunter needs to be afraid of is just getting these done quickly enough to do it.
It seems like he's doing it.
Yep. Okay, doesn't want to activate the explosive trap. This all seems correct.
Yeah, I like this quite a bit. He gets a huge taunt minion. He gets the Soul of the Murloc off. And this is just even though it's not like a flashy way of playing the game, I think that, or at least the early turns were not that flashy. I really like how Fury Hunter and Freddy approached this game specifically. The Hunter did a lot of stuff early on that would make a very early Spirit of the Frog, very early Desert Hare evolve, like super awkward.
Yeah.
Rat Trap, for example, along with Snake Trap, if he wanted to like try to fight for board even more than he was doing. But the fact that Fury Hunter waited just a couple more turns extra, really gave him the opportunity to do everything he wanted in one turn. And even though the Rat Trap was activated, it's nowhere close to enough to fight back for Kolento. And I think this goes back a little bit to why the Voltaic Burst on turn 1 was like pretty crucial to this game plan, I think. The fact that he denied that 1-2, which could become a 2-3 or 3-4 in the late game, suddenly he's looking down like 10, 15 less damage to his face, because he probably wasn't going to answer that for quite a long time, right? If he hadn't answered it turn 1. I think denying himself the ability to get that one extra spell, Voltaic Burst, to deny Kolento the opportunity to hit face for, 10, 12 damage, in the long run, it makes a lot of sense.
I agree. I think it worked out pretty well for Fury Hunter because Kolento played enough minions to make the Mogu cheap anyway. But the more I think through it, like not killing off if you ignore the actual effect of the secrets, not killing off the secret keep is probably fine because you'll be able to kill it off at some point anyway. But if a freezing trap freezes back your Mogu or something devastating like that, then things can go wrong. So just eliminating the potential for that definitely makes a lot of sense. And I think I agree that for Fury Hunter, that play was good, but the real genius of this game was just how he ticked off the secrets one by one and made sure that he wasn't losing to any of them.
Yeah, I think the real genius was the delay, just holding on, waiting for the optimal turn to strike, like you were saying. I really like that. In fact, the killing off the Secret Keeper was arguably a minor thing in comparison.
Yeah. So on this turn, we're looking at the potential for another big load of development, I suppose you could call it, with Frog Burst Evolve, if you wanted to just make another big board of minions. It does
what about
Death Rattle of once.
Would you like to go Frog Burst Evolve or Frog Evolve first? Because if I was going to make that play, I imagine going Burst second might have some merit.
Just so you don't get Doomsayer.
Yeah, exactly. You still get a Soul of the Murloc off of the initial Evolve, and the 1 in 100 or something similar to get Doomsayer for each Voltaic Burst might not be worth the risk.
Is it more likely you lose to that or Zephyrus? I mean, they didn't go for either, but I'm wondering if it's worth going for the big development. I mean, I think the real play around Zephyrus is actually to not develop at all, because then you're less vulnerable to brawl. So this makes sense to me for Fury Hunter because he's still just miles away.
Yeah. Slow and Steady. Usually in Hearthstone, Slow and Steady does not win the race, but in this case, I think Slow and Steady will win the race.
Yeah, this is enough to win the game, so why overcommit?
I wonder.
I think the biggest thing from Fury Hunter's perspective is just sending 9 face. Getting damage in now is probably the most important thing you can do. Secondarily, loading up with a Soul of the Murloc is probably a very important part of this game plan.
Oh my god.
Oh no!
Oh my god.
That's not supposed to happen.
What?
Oh, and if the Death Rattle, okay, so I'm not sure which order it's going to proc in, but if the Doomsayer procs before the Abomination,
Fury
all
Hunter
of the
doesn't know
weapons
either.
will die. Is that correct?
It has to be Death Rattles. It has to be Death Rattle first, right, and then the minion. Oh no, wait. Minions
No,
die and then
because-
Death Rattles go.
Because the Doomsayer dies first. It's going to be confusing. I'm not
gonna be very
entirely sure how this will resolve. I'm not sure. It might only kill some of the. It might only kill some of the 1/1s.
Yeah.
It's actually very unclear. This is like
Oh,
Schrodinger's lethal, where sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't lethal.
it's like Schrodinger's
That's actually not the
lethal,
case. If you know
understand it.
exactly how it's going to work,
Time moves quickly.
it's very interesting. Kalendo is probably just going to ship 3 damage into this Abomination to gain 3, just in case the elephant spawn. But
Unity,
I'm excited.
precision, perfection.
I'm very excited.
No, wait, he's killing it.
Oh wait, what? I guess he knows how the order works then.
Are you sure? Because
No, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. Kalendo could just be a genius.
I mean, it's been known before.
Sweet treat for shrunken head. A new
Call of the Wild
glory
next turn
dawns.
could just win the game. That doesn't win. I can't watch Gallon.
This is
I'd written this game off.
Derek. Hold me.
I wonder.
Through the cold internet tubes, I will hold you, Gallon.
All right, I have to imagine Kalendo's interested in Unleash the Hounds. There's no way you do not play that card this turn.
Well,
No,
I
there's no
guess.
way you don't play Unleash the Hounds this turn. I think it's debatable after that. You know, you could be looking at pressure play Hyena Alpha, and if they try to go for a Bloodlust, then maybe you get tempo in play, and the Bloodlust would activate pressure plate on the 4/4.
Quickly.
But you're playing the Unleash the Hounds. And you're probably playing the Eaglehorn mode of Kill them.
alright, there we go. Full board clear. Fury Hunter needs a lick him. And that's
Lickham does it.
pretty much the only thing that offers lethal on this turn.
Yes and no, right? Lickham, in over the next couple turns will be lethal, just due to the fact that there's a lightning storm. Bloodlust. This is so close.
Ah! How is this not over? So what? Do you just? What happens if you go Voltaic Burst Hero Power? You only need 1 minion to survive. Oh no, wait, but one of them dies to the pressure play.
I think you want a hero power first, because if the Voltaic Burst procs and it kills a 0 attack minion, then there's 2 damage in play.
Okay.
So doing that first makes a lot of sense. Call of the Wild puts taunt in play.
Yeah, I'm playing Call of the Wild on this turn. Lickham would still be lethal though. With double Lightning Storm, Zap Lightning Storm, however you want to do it, that's lethal.
That Doomsayer was brutal. This game is so tense. Okay, Kleto has 10 mana. Call of the Wild pretty much costs 10 mana at this point. It costs 9. 9 equals 10.
Yeah.
The math is true. Okay. Call of the Wild comes.
I mean,
out
it
here.
just has to be the play right. He knows that he's dying to lick him, so you have to put a taunt in the way. Otherwise, he dies to Bloodlust. Sometimes, if there's a Voltaic,
Time moves quickly.
or just Hero Power. Oh! Am I missing something? How is this not Call of the Wild? Does this represent 2-turn lethal if he doesn't die?
He gets to have 7, 9, 11 in play. Oh, so 16. It's not lethal with the Call of the Wild next turn.
Yeah.
Thunderhead
Especially
is
as
a huge pickup.
Leok is not summoned. Because they summon in alphabetical order, right? So Leok wouldn't even come down, I think.
It's
Oh, no,
not.
wait.
It's from left to right.
Oh.
It will summon a Huffer and a Leok, and a Misha will not be
Yeah,
summoned.
you're right. Not a Mage.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually just forgotten how the alphabet works there. Well.
Well, it's not.
Also
It's not
Leon.
alphabetical. It's from left to right.
Well, it's the same thing, right?
I mean, I guess, depending on... Sure. I don't know.
Right, either way, this is 2 out of 3 times. Not a head shot ahead.
There may have been a way to better guarantee that, but not something to really worry about right now.
So he's just loading up on the board as much as he humanly can here. This still allows him to play Bloodlust on the top of his turn, he's overloading his mind.
Bueno will need a miracle here. I do believe he has an explosive trap in play right now, so Zul'jin off the top. He does not find a Zul'jin off the top! A Zul'jin would have actually gotten him back in the game.
So if he goes trade into a 1-1, doesn't make a difference, Bloodlust just kills him.
It seems to me like Fury Hunter has this.
I wonder.
And there is no way for Kolento to stay alive. Fury Hunter, Ready B, will take it 3-2 versus Ukraine in a reverse sweep, which we do not often see in Protect Conquest like we just saw. It's a good series, man. Yeah, it's a good series.
That was an awesome series. That at the end was absolutely nail biting, and obviously we had the huge RNG moment with Doomsayer, which was crazy. But it really makes you wonder, like, what could have been done to improve it. Like, was Kolento even correct to clear off the abomination there, or was that wrong? And was like, I don't even know.
I would like a Hearthstone scientist to recreate that specific moment. So just keep on playing a Vol Shaman until you get specifically Abomination and Doomsayer, and come back to us. And you will get a like on Twitter for it. So, 8 hours of work, potentially more for a single like on Twitter. It's very worthwhile, so we'd like to hear from you guys.
That's my whole approach to making memes. You spend hours and hours of work on it, and a couple of people give you a heart on the internet. It's completely worth it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but there we go. We are done with Group H. We have our 2 teams that have qualified through in Greece, and joining them are now Denmark. Commiserations to the Ukraine and the Russian Federation. They put up a very, very strong fight, I think it's fair to say, especially Ukraine. Like, I think outside of a couple of misplays, and especially towards the end, they were definitely one of the stronger teams and looking very, very good there.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about a couple of misplays, I think there's maybe like one arguable turn, if that makes sense. I think throughout their matches that they played today, I think they were one of the best, if not the best team. Greece also played fantastically, and I'm glad to see Denmark go through. They've been playing well, but I think there is still a little bit of room for improvement where they can look back on their games. So hopefully for the round of 16, they'll pick it up just a little bit and show us what they've got.
Well, that is going to be us done with Group H. We have one more game coming up today. I believe it's going to be Germany versus Italy as our final game of the day, jumping into a new group. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with one last game